the executive session, and I'm going to open the public meeting for the Port of Bellingham Board of Commissioners regular scheduled meeting for Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. Roll call. Bobby Briscoe.
Here.
Michael Shepard. Here. Ken Bell, I am here as well. We will be taking public comment for anybody online or anybody in the room. In a minute, I'm going to read the advisory committee schedules. The Marine Advisory Committee is October 8th here at the Harbor Center, and it's in person only. Again, the Marine Advisory Committee here in the Harbor Center building at the port office, in person only, starts at 6 p.m. on the 8th. Our Bellingham International Airport Advisory Committee, our BIAC, is October 17th at 4 p.m. That's on Zoom as well as in person at the Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Station, the ARF building at 2005 West Bakerview Road. And again, that's in person and Zoom. You can find the Zoom link on our website. So public comment period. This is a period where anybody can say anything, open comment. And we'll open it up to public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes if you would. Anybody in the audience, anybody on the list? Nobody here. Anybody online wish to speak to the commission? Nobody wishing to speak. We'll move to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Commissioner Briscoe, got anything?
No, I have anything for discussion.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yeah, I just had a question about the Sea Feast. They originally were on a local grant from hotel tax receipts, and is that sunsetted now that they're into however many wonderful years of Sea Feast we've had? And is this why they're looking for additional funds, or is this a supplementary?
That's correct. They started off with the City of Bellingham Hotel Tax Fund, and it was a graduated scale. The first year they got the most funding, then I think it got half the second year, and the third year is the same as the second year, and that funding has expired, so they're just looking for additional funding. I believe this one's from the county LTAX.
And that's the same hotel funds that are being used for tune-up as well, right? And
Yeah,
they'll
tune-up
have a
gets-
similar kind of step down in
Correct.
the amount of funding, and then increased opportunity for new sources coming in.
That's right. They both start off with City of Bellingham lodging tax, and then they graduate into county lodging tax dollars.
Both those were 3-year terms on those expenditures of funding, and they no longer have that ability to go.
I think so.
Tune-up is done, and so is.
I think so. I'm not as familiar with tune-up as I am with Sea Feast because I was on the board of Sea Feast and I'm not on tune-up, but I think it is the same.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that was my only question.
I have none. Carrie?
Okay. Motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yes.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Bell is a yes. Okay, we'll move on to our presentations. Recreational vehicle registration compliance. Our Maritime Director is Tiffany Simone.
So, good afternoon, Tiffany D. Simone, Director of Maritime. You'll recall that I did an update to the Commission on August 13th, I believe, on Vessel Registration Compliance Initiative that had been requested from numerous interested parties. And so we've been working on that, and Commissioner Shepard asked me to do an update when we got closer down our timeline and deadline, so I'm here to do that. Just as a reminder, so it's a fairly short presentation, I think 3 or 4 slides. Here are the registration requirements on the left within the state of Washington, and then the next slide will go over the harbor's rules and regulations and requirements. So here's what it says in I have highlighted the pertinent information in our rules and regulations. All vessels must display a current registration decal, license, or permit according to the Washington State Department of Licensing regulations to qualify for or retain moorage at the port's moorage facilities. And so we are just actively engaged in enforcing this already standing rule that we have. So what we did, the timeline on the left is our previous timeline, and it was admittedly a bit aggressive, but we have made progress. And so we've adjusted it a bit. On the next slide, I'm going to show you where we are from a compliance standpoint. And the reason that we kind of slid the time frame out is we are making progress, and we believe we'll continue to do so. So the whole goal, if you'll recall, is to help folks get into compliance with Washington State. And it also answers some other questions which the commission has asked us to look at, which is take a really good look at our wait list, try to move that along, and implement policy that encourages that. So you'll see September 1st, we started making some phone calls. We didn't have that step on the original timeline. And so we're like, okay, people are talking to us. Let's help people. There's a different set of circumstances for Canadians. And so we weren't as familiar. So we needed to be able to work with them in order to get those Canadian customers in compliance as well. And so now October 1st, that's when we'll be sending out the notice of cancellation and vessel removal. November 1st will be the deadline to remove vessels from the harbor, and then we'll proceed with RCW if needed. We don't anticipate a lot of that, but let me show you the compliance. So Squalicum is on the left. The blue numbers are where we were when I gave you an update at the last meeting a month ago. And then the white numbers are where we currently are, and that's by vessel size. So you'll see we're very close in Squalicum. We're not as close in Blaine, but also making progress there. And
So in terms of, these are percentages, can you help us out with like, what are numbers of vessels?
oh boy, I'd have to know the number, how many in each slip.
Yeah.
But we don't see this as a huge hurdle. Now that we're this many people in compliance, the number of people we're focused on is much smaller. So obviously it takes much less time to outreach and contact them. But I could get you those numbers if you want.
I'm just curious about
How many actual customers? Yeah.
And if we're thinking about moving along a wait list, those kind of actual numbers are useful for me to think about.
Okay,
And these are strictly recreational, none of
Yes.
these are commercial.
correct.
So something about the 45 to 56 in Blaine recreational group that we need to pay attention.
And my instinct says there might be a large Canadian customer base in that size in Blaine. So it may be taking a little bit longer, but I can definitely double check, sorry.
So with the Canadian customers, I've never paid any attention. Are they still registered, excuse me, down here, or is their boat registered up there?
Up there, it depends on Canadian vessels with current Canadian registration document. It depends on the time frame that they are in Washington State waters. So,
All right, thank you.
okay. And then again, here are the benefits, which we kind of already talked about. It's the law and it's in our rules and regs, so we're just enforcing that. It really helps our harbor staff and our security team understand who's in the harbor and what's going on. So also those registration fees help fund DNR's derelict vessel removal program and the boat turn-in program, which we've been really successful working with that department at both of our harbors. So we like to make sure that we're following the rules in order to fund that.
Have any customers said, I will decide to take my boat out of the harbor instead of fixing my registration?
Instead of registering? No. We more had either I am removing my boat, I'm not using it, and so I'm going to remove it, or coming into compliance with paying for their registration. Yeah.
So everybody's choosing that coming into compliance option.
Yeah. I'd be very shocked if folks take their 35-foot boat out and want to get on a waiting list later. So, any other questions? That's kind of the update. I think that's what you're looking for, other than maybe I can get you some actual numbers of customers.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Port Bellingham real estate lease brochure.
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sarah Huckabee, Associate Property Manager on the real estate team. It's great to be here to talk about the real estate lease brochure. You may already be familiar, but every month, Real Estate puts out this brochure that contains key information about the properties we have available for lease around the port. It's published online, circulated to interested parties. and distributed to our partners, specifically the Port of Bellingham Economic Development Team and the Whatcom County Commercial Brokers Association. Let me start my presentation by expressing Real Estate's immense gratitude to the Economic Development Team and the Commercial Brokers Association for their collaboration over the years. Their partnership has brought us so many amazing tenants. It goes without saying that they both have grown to be an essential part of our work. So if they're listening, a big thank you to them. While the lease brochure is a tool primarily used by Real Estate, the lease brochure and all our property listings are available on the Port website. In fact, if you have your devices on you, you can scan the QR code on the cover page of this presentation, and it'll take you directly to the listings that are currently in our lease brochure. And it's a bit of a tip here. If you do bookmark it in your browser, then you can reference it anytime you get a question about any vacancies around the Port, which I'm sure is a question you get often. I'll be moving forward, but this QR code will also be on the last slide of the presentation. There we go, sorry. Even without a QR code, you can always find the lease brochure and property listings on the real estate page of the Port website. Once you've arrived on the real estate page, to access the lease brochure, you just click on the home icon similar to that that's on the presentation, and to access just the listings, you click available real estate. All of the marketing collateral is updated at the beginning of every month. Those same property listings are also available on the Commercial Brokers Association website under the Search Commercial Listings function. So all this to say that the lease brochure and property listings are always within your grasp. But while I am here presenting to you today, we wanted to share what some of those lease opportunities this month are. To start is 2551 Roeder Avenue, a unique mix of retail, office, and shop space located at the corner of Coho Way and Roeder Avenue. This site is specifically designated for marine trades business. So with that said, a few ideal marine trade opportunities include light manufacturing, boat outfitters, retail, brokerages. This is 2551 Roeder in its current state, but for the right tenant, the Port is receptive to proposals for modifications and improvements to make the building better suited to a proposed use that aligns with a marine trade land use policy. Moving on to the Bellwether Peninsula is Suite 110 of Bayview Center building. This suite features large offices with views of the INJ Waterway, Bellingham Bay, and Promenade. We've had a lot of interest in this space and recently entered into some preliminary discussions with a prospective tenant, a governmental entity. But at this point in time, we're continuing to show the space. So if you know anyone personally or professionally that's interested in luxury office space, we're always happy to organize a showing. On the more industrial side, we have Building 10 at 742 Marine Drive. This building is ideal for light industrial work. We're currently in negotiations with a prospective tenant, but as is customary at this stage of negotiations, we continue to direct other interested parties to keep checking back with us on a monthly basis in the event anything changes. Also at 742 Marine Drive is Office Building 6. Although Office Building 6 is slotted to be redeveloped in the near future, we continue to make use of the asset while it's still here. We've opted to lease individual office spaces on a month-to-month basis with the understanding that tenancy is short-term and can be terminated with 30 days notice. Currently, we have 2 tenants that lease office space in the building, but there's plenty of office space that remains for other interested parties. For those seeking warehouse space, ideal for assembly, manufacturing, shipping, and/or distribution, 1000 F Street is a great option with all the works, including access to multiple bays for easy loading, unloading. We also have 2 properties available at Bellingham International Airport. The first is the 3.84 acre lot located at the corner of West Bakerview Road and Airport Way. This is a lot we often refer to as Lot B. This Lot B is strictly available for short-term use or highly desired projects. Finally is a box hanger, specifically HE8. For any aeronautical related questions, we highly encourage folks to reach out to the airport operations manager, Aaron Collins. So that's all of our listings available this month. Real Estate would like to thank the commissioners, as well as port staff and tenants and the other members of our community that help spread the word about our monthly leasing opportunities. We encourage all to use this resource because your recommendations help our division maintain high occupancy levels for the whole port's benefit. Any questions? And there's that QR code again, so.
Mr. Briscoe?
No, our property staff does a great job. I mean, I think we're at, what, 90-some% capacity, which is really well. And we put a lot of people to work with the newer ground we bought. That's what we're supposed to do, make jobs, and we've done that. And I think you guys have done a really good job in the real estate department. Kudos to you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
It's nice to have this. We do get questions like this often, so it's good to be able to refer people when they have those questions, and I appreciate our continued marketing of these properties. They're fantastic, diverse range, everything from hangars to workspace, and they're generally quite desirable. So, good work.
Thank you.
What they said. Thank you. Okay, with that, presentations are done. We have one more opportunity for public comment. Anybody in the room? Anybody online? All staff? Okay, we'll move to other business. Commissioner Briscoe. You guys go ahead. No, there is no other guys first. Commissioner Shepard?
Sure. I had a question for Rob and maybe for our IT staff. I've just been following the experience with the Port of Seattle and their cybersecurity breach or attack that happened. We saw port-wide operations come to largely a standstill. They're going to be spending probably months repairing their data and archives at their port operations. And SeaTac, our regional airport hub, was put in a position where they were writing paper boarding passes for people by hand. All local governments are under target for ransomware, and I think our staff does a really good job of trying to educate and do preventative training so we're less likely to make that bad click. But that can only go so far. So I'm wondering just for an update on kind of our cybersecurity protocol for how we're working to prevent an attack of this nature. And then also wanting to get some, I think, policy around what happens if there is one. And maybe we have this already, but I'm not familiar with it. What is our operational plan if there is some sort of ransomware attack that happens? And how do we know what steps we're going to take and not have to make it up on the fly? Because it's going to be a difficult situation no matter what we do, but the more planning we have, the better.
I'm going to ask Scott to answer the technical questions about what we do. I will comment if we did get some sort of a lockout ransomware request. We do have terrorism and insurance that would cover that. And we would call the insurance agency, and then they would have experts walk us through those steps. So the plan is developed by people that are experts in that area, unlike we are. And then they would handle any negotiations, any payments, basically everything going forward when we turn it over to them. And that's why we pay for that service. But Scott's team does a great job of trying to prevent this from occurring in the first place, and I think that's what he's prepared to talk to you about.
Yeah, all right, thanks for having me. I'm Scott Crocheron, IT manager. And I got to start off by saying, I think we're setting a record now that this is the first time ever that an IT staff has ever stood at this podium.
We try to keep them in a room together. And
Don't waste this opportunity.
You let us out.
This is your,
I'm just going to share a couple of slides with you, some information that'll hopefully be helpful, and I'll answer any questions afterwards. The main thing to fight cybersecurity is awareness and training. So cybersecurity awareness. Cyber readiness is about building awareness. It's an ongoing and dynamic process, but it does not need to be overly complicated or expensive. Cyber readiness focuses on educating people and developing policies that support that awareness and education. Cyber readiness does not lie solely in technical skills or technology solutions. That last point is to say that it is the responsibility of all port employees to help protect the port and not just IT. Many cyber threats can be mitigated with basic cyber policies and practices that can be implemented throughout the organization. The next two slides, I'll just have some very basic examples of what we do here. These are items that we're actually doing, not ideas. We do user training. We have various posters around the building you've probably seen. They kind of mock old video games or old movies, but the message is always the same, is just be careful what you click on. We also send phishing test emails to staff. They simulate real spam, real phishing emails, and if a user mistakenly falls for it and clicks the link, we then require a short training for them to finish.
do you send those to commissioners as well?
No, we don't. We give you a break, but
Probably should.
yeah, we probably should. Now that you mention it, you'll someone's pointing at you.
Just saying.
we could actually have a little pool, and three of you would do worse.
Yeah, I think we want to hear the results.
Anybody want to put money in that pool, it would be me.
We'll have to show up quarterly and give the results to you.
All of it.
Periodically, we also send educational emails. Say if we see a trend going around that somebody keeps sending emails about a late invoice that needs to be paid that we know is fake, we'll send a notice out, or we'll send an email out with just a reminder of how to detect phishing emails. Second, two-factor authentication. This is a big one. A lot of companies still don't do this, and it's so easy to implement. Anybody connecting from outside the network, outside the building, home, cafe, et cetera, they must have a two-factor authentication in order to connect, not just a username and password. For example, we require it with our encrypted VPN connections, our webmail, and all of our 365 apps, which we're starting to roll out. Another method is access permissions, and what this means is users only have access to the files and the systems that they need to do their job. For example, if someone in accounting accidentally clicks on a malicious link and becomes infected, it will only affect the accounting files and not the airport or the maintenance. But of course, accounting would never do that. Thank you, Tamara. She was the one that's closest to me, so I chose her to pick. Next, we have methods for detection. We have systems in place, devices and software that notify IT staff when it detects an infection on a computer, notices any changes in permissions given to users, like say, again, accounting. If all of a sudden an accounting employee became a network administrator in the system, it would send us an email, and then we'd all look at each other, did you do that? And so we get notified. It also lets us know about network changes, such as new devices plugged into the network. Cybersecurity assessment, or also known as an audit. Just last year, we invited the Coast Guard to complete a 2-week assessment on our cybersecurity practices and skills. They spent a week trying to break into our network remotely, and then they spent a week on site reviewing our network from inside. And they did find made some recommendations, and we implemented all of them. The important note here is they'll always find something. I mean, there's no perfect network. Security is just not perfect. You got to keep it updated. Finally, for all the IT people in the audience, backups. Backups is the solution. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when we will become infected and when we will be attacked and when they will be successful. Backups is how we recover. In a very simplistic answer, that is the plan. There is no way to bring us back without restoring everything from backup.
So those are backup in terms of archival files and all of the other
Correct.
software and things that we use. So we have those that are ready to reboot the system.
Yes, it backs up individual files, servers, programs, databases, et cetera.
That's a standalone system?
It is a standalone system. However, the backups themselves, there's a practice to store it in 3 different locations. And the most important of that location is the third one is off-site. So if the building burns down, I mean, it's also protect us not just from cybersecurity attacks, but natural disaster. So if the building burns down, we have a backup that's off-site. Say it, could it be like stolen?
Yeah, if you're backing up somewhere, can that be infected as well?
In this particular case, no. It is, I forget the term, but it's offline. It's,
That was my question, it's not on the main.
yeah. For a moment there, I thought you were asking me if someone can get carjacked with our backup, but that's possible too. But no, that third backup is offline. So because it is possible, and we read about some attacks, well, the company will become infected, including their backup becomes infected. But that third method of backup is there for the extreme case. It's also very slow to restore from, but it's very successful. So that's all I have for you, but is there any questions on that?
No, for me, that's helpful. Thank you for preparing those. It kind of reaffirms that we're doing the things we should be. It seems like we're, following industry best practices. We're testing ourselves with other government partners. We can only do the best we can and try and have as good of procedures in place. I guess for Rob, for that question of, if there was an attack, are you saying that we would bring in our kind of contracted support to help us make those decisions on what to do next, how we respond, how we kind of interface with some third party that we don't have any control of?
That's correct. It's we pay for cybersecurity. I believe it's part of our terrorism policy. We pay for cybersecurity insurance, and part of that is a service that if you are attacked, they come in and consult you on how to move forward, what to do, what steps to take.
Yeah, if I could add to that, outside service could come in and tell us how they got in. Because obviously if there's a malicious character within our network, even after we restore our backups, they could still be in the network and do whatever the damage they did again. So you need to patch how they got in addition to restoring everything. So yeah, they would be very helpful with that.
Okay, well, that was helpful for me. Thank you.
Super, thank you.
No, do you have anything to add?
Oh, no, I mean.
Just out of curiosity, the monetization of a hack like this, is it just basically pulling our information out and selling it? Or
I believe
is
so.
it just sport?
Most of the articles I've read lately are just all for money. Before it used to, back when we were kids, it was for fun. And then now it was malicious, so it's caused damage.
But
And
now
now
it's
it's money.
monetized.
And they're making a ton of money, so that's gonna keep happening.
Well, SeaTac didn't pay. For everything I read, SeaTac did not pay.
Far as I know, yeah.
So they got their data back. They had to get enough systems in place that they could restore from backups and get up to 100% without paying a dime. It is. They're looking for Bitcoin, yeah.
How did it feel?
Fighting it, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Every single day.
We'll call you back so you get used to it.
Yeah. Oh, speaking, yeah. That too. I'll never get over the nervousness of that, but yeah, I'll get used to it.
You've got something that big. All right, I'm going to start with a couple of things. I've already passed, I've got two things on my plate that I want to talk about. One of them is I've asked Rob to discuss doing a charrette with the city and on the waterfront issues, so that we could put a public meeting together that would be in a very public place, a very large event. I know it's 2024, it's not 2008 anymore when the last waterfront plan was rolled out. I want to have an open public dialogue in a setting where we have a facilitator, professional do it. Would like to have it in a big enough place that it could be broken down into smaller groups. So we could have a section for the log pond area or the shipping terminal, talk about the waterfront area, just to basically lay down our story to the city, to the county, to the people in our community, so that we are more transparent than we've been in the past. I think it's really important for us to get our story out. I think there's a great way to do that in a one venue setting, so that we're not trying to do it individually. I think if we try to tell our story one-on-one on a day-to-day basis, I think that's a cumbersome, time-consuming process. I don't think we hit everybody. But I think if we can put a story together and have the port host a charrette type environment, and I say charrette because I think that's the most logical venue. Have it abbreviated, have it over a 1 day, 2 day period where we have a moderator. We walk in and we can talk about what's in place, what we've done, what our history is, and where we come from, and tell that story in that public setting, and then discuss it. There's downsides to that environment. One is you're opening up Pandora's box and letting people come in and discuss things that we may not be able to afford or possibly do, which is why I think it's important that we take a long enough lead time to make sure that we have the history, to have the background. Right now, we're in an environment where we're talking at each other, we're not talking to each other, and I think it's important that we reach out. I've aired this with a number of people, including Rob and some people on the staff. Talked to the mayor today a little bit about it, and there is an overwhelming positive response to being involved in something like that, so that we can talk to the community, hear the ideas. And I'm airing this today. Is yours going to beat this? Just making sure. So really, I wanted to have that discussion. I don't want to set it in stone today, but I want to at least have the dialogue with my fellow commissioners. We don't really get a chance to talk outside of this environment. So I think it's important that we talk about what are the best ways for us to communicate our message, for us to communicate what we have to say, to give the community an involvement in what we do, bring interested parties to the table. I believe the Working Waterfront Coalition needs to be at the table. I believe, even Mercy Housing needs to be at the table. I believe every commercial fisherman needs to be at the table, so that we have all of the industrial users, all of the commercial, all the people that we hope to do jobs for, the ag community involved, and it's not just us, and bring in that outside. And it's been a while since we've had anything like that on a public scale. But that's really that's the first thing I would like to discuss tonight, if we have a chance to openly discuss it. And again, I don't want to make it a deadline that we got to make a decision today. I just wanted to air it so that we have time to think about it. Let's talk about the pros and the cons of that. Let's talk about what that looks like, who the professionals might be that would host it, what kind of an environment we want to hold it in, what kind of a venue it needs to be. But I do think it's time that we got out, we talked, we listened, we put whiteboards up, we had facilitators in rooms, and my vision is a little different than probably yours would be, but mine is that we have a number of different breakout sessions where we talk about essentially what are we going to do at the shipping terminal. That breakout room would be one that we'd hold several times so that a number of people could go to different sessions to go around and hear what the history's been, how much money we have in it, talk about the rail spur coming in, talk about those kind of things in those kind of in that kind of an environment. So I just think that's what I want to put on the table and just get the feedback from you guys. It's been rattling around in my brain, and I didn't know how else to do.
Sure.
that. You're up.
So I'd encourage the commission to think about more of an open house than a charrette. A charrette implies there's a lot of decision-making happening, and we've already have a master plan on file with the city. The city council had to agree to that. The port commission had to agree to that. We had numerous groups that were attended meetings and gave input on that. And I'd hate to see us reopen that because that's years of process, and I think we have a really good plan in place. But I do think we can do a good job of communicating that plan, and I think an open house is more conducive to that, where we invite everyone in and we show them what we're doing. We have conversations and we answer questions rather than a charrette. Maybe that's a technicality, but that would be my preference.
Well, I like some of that, you know, I'm maybe thinking a hybrid between the two things I've heard so far. I really like inviting the public to share their opinions about what could happen next to the waterfront. I think that's a great exercise for us to listen and to be responsive. We've got a number of parcels that are yet to be developed, and I think it was really successful with the board mill group that we had a guiding vision for when we RFP'd that. And if the public can help us to develop some of those guiding visions for what those individual next parcels could be, I really welcome that. And I think our staff could do a great job of sharing what our roadmap to the future is and soliciting that input. When I hear charrette, I get worried about the sub-area plan. I don't want to reopen the sub-area plan. It's a technical, cumbersome document that has spent a lot of staff time from both the city and the port to actualize, and I don't feel the need to reopen that planning document, partially because it's extremely time intensive, and I'm just really not wanting to have any of our partners at the waterfront feel destabilized. Mercy and Millworks and the board mill group, they all are working under an agreed upon layout for and sub-area plan for how they're going to build their projects. They're putting real time and money into what they're doing, and I don't want to kind of reopen some planning process that could destabilize that investment that they're making. So if we can provide security for our current partners who are already invested down there, if we can make sure we're eliciting input from the community to guide our future projects and share what's happening next, share kind of the roadmaps of where we're going, I like that part of it.
Well, I almost feel like all of a sudden we're on a defense here, and I'm not really agreeing with a whole lot of what we're discussing. Look around this room tonight. This is an opportunity for people to come, learn, and speak what they think we should be doing. We've had a handful of people, and we've got a couple of newspapers who are throwing articles out, and all of a sudden we're going to put more of a load on our staff to respond with making presentations and taking their time to do meetings when they can be doing other things that are better suited for what they're being paid to do. You know, Nobody comes to the meetings. If we had this big volume of people and we were doing things wrong and not doing things and not sticking to the plans and doing things we're supposed to do, not following our mission statement, this room would be full. When I first became a commissioner, there was a lot of people in these rooms all the time, and Rob remembers that. There was a lot of people here complaining, yelling, and hollering, beating on the table about a lot of things. And it took us a lot of years to get to where, you know, Dan shows up and maybe one or two other people, and that's it. If people are that upset and that uninformed about what we're doing, why aren't they here? Now, I guess I'll go into what I was going to say. You know, we've been attacked by a couple of newspapers for doing a shitty job, so they say here. We've hired a PR company that they're upset about, which was the people's request. We had a certain city councilor that told me that we needed to do a better job with PR and told me I shouldn't talk about her friend, Mr. Scott Jones, who thinks that we should do a better job at PR. So what do? We hire a PR company, and that's what they do, because that's not what we're doing here. We don't have people here that are PR companies. We do the best job we can. We're very transparent. You know, everybody wants 5 commissioners. That becomes untransparent because commissioners can meet with each other then. We can't meet unless it's a public meeting. It's about as transparent as it gets right now. It's never going to be any more transparent. And I'm pretty upset about some of the emails been sent out, one in particular by Mr. Jones, that gets personal with people that, you know, we're a bunch of idiots sitting up here, we don't know what we're doing, when the case is Mr. Jones pathetic. He's pathetic dumbass as far as this commissioner is concerned and what he's doing, what he said about our staff, what he said about the port. And I'm not a politically correct guy, so I really don't give a shit what anybody thinks about what I'm saying. I'm saying what I feel, he said what he felt, and I'm replying. And if he doesn't like it, that's his problem. Come on down here, sit in this chair, get up and speak and tell us how stupid we all are, that we don't know how to run a port. Because that's what you said in an email. And if people don't believe that, it's public information. You're welcome to look at it. Mr. Jones is the type of man that likes to create chaos. He never comes with a solution. He always comes with a problem. You want to get somewhere in this world, come with a solution. Help us. Don't hinder us. Don't call people names. Don't threaten people. Don't tell people they're stupid. You know, you're the one who wanted a PR company. You want better PR. That's what we're trying to do. What do? You start writing nasty emails. You're not man enough to come down here and stand at a microphone and tell us what a lousy job we're doing. I invite you to come down and tell us that, because you're 100% wrong. The people that work at this port are a very high class of people. They do a very good job. Their heart's in their job and what they're doing, and we don't need people like you, Scott, degrading them. So find something else to do with your time other than create chaos. Create solutions. Try helping. There's not a waterfront here that needs to be saved. The Port of Bellingham has been saving it for the last 20 years or more. We're the one that's been saving it, not you. And I don't think we need to waste a whole bunch of time having meetings to explain something that we haven't done wrong. That's where I'm at with the meetings. And if the people want to show up and ask questions, make a phone call, call the office. We can set you up with a tour. You can go all around, a guided tour on the port. We'll take you around, we'll show you what's going on, answer your questions. But don't put the burden on the port staff to start having meetings to explain something that we're not doing wrong. That's where I'm at with all of this. And it's nothing, I don't think it's a bad idea you've got, but I don't think it's needed.
So and I'll just respond to a couple of things. One of them is, in this environment where most of what happens in this political arena is people taking shots. And it never happens in a face-to-face environment. And what I'm responding to is I don't ever believe we need to take a look at the sub-area plan. I agree. I think that is settled science, as it were. But I do think that it's important that we have a discussion with our partners, because there's a lot of people who want to have that discussion, and it involves the city, it involves our other partners. Moore is one of them. So I do think that we do need to have something of that arena. I called it a charrette just because that's the first thing that comes to mind when I don't care what we call it. Charrette, if it has an implication that we open some things that don't, I think there are some things where we have a discussion about here's what we can open, here's what we can't, here's what we have accomplished, here's what we have settled, right? But here's where we're headed, and here's why we're doing what we're doing. And I think if everybody understood in that environment, we would build support, because they're not all coming here. They're,
Why do we hire a PR company then? If we're gonna do our own PR, why are we hiring people?
well, part of the reason that I'm responding to this is because I think that is an effort that is one-on-one. I think it's a little bit more isolated. I think this is a way to bring a group of people together to have a group discussion around, in an environment where we can have an honest dialogue. It's less one-on-one, it is less of that kind of outreach. And I think bringing the city in and bringing our partners in to have that dialogue, certainly you'd want to have the board mill group, present to say, here's what we're doing here. Here's what happened with Harcourt. Here's the situation. To do it on a massive scale, to get it done with a lot of people, we'll build support with them. They'll be able to argue on our behalf. And I think we can do it in a bigger way than if we just did the one-on-one outreach that I think that's also important. But I think this is a bigger way to do that. And I don't know what we call it, but I do think it needs to be a one-day event or over a weekend where we have the entire day scheduled. And I don't think we do it until February, March to give us time to put it together. But we put it on the horizon to say this is what our plans are. We just wanted to let you know. Here's what we're looking for on the dock. Here's how much it's going to cost to finish the last half of that dock if you really want to ship in there. I mean, if people understood the amount of investment we have, and I just don't know that that gets out there in an environment where we can actually have that conversation. So again, it's not my intent to open up the sub-area plan. I think that is a very decent reaction to that. But it is my intent to say, here's what we are, here's what we're looking at. Even your comment about how do we lease other properties and when can we start and how should they be leased out? I don't think anybody is looking at the Harcourt drawing and thinking that's going to happen in 2024. Everything has changed in 2024. When we have a pump track, we have a container village. That drawing is no longer valid. So what are people envisioning? And how do we put that vision on a piece of paper with their input to move forward? So that's the reason for wanting to do that. And my request is that it happen sometime February, March, in that time frame, so that we have plenty of time. And I would also say I do think we need to have some kind of a professional oversee it and take a little bit of the out of the hands of the staff, so that we have a moderator, we have someone who's can police if we need it policed.
Given what's gone on
I don't mean
in the
police,
last
but
30 years, don't you have to have a pretty solid vision to do something like this of exactly what's gonna go on? And do we have that? I don't feel like we have a sub-area plan, but I don't think we have a solid vision of exactly what we're doing. And when you go out and say things and you know, it's just like the marina they were gonna build for years over here in the ESB pond. You go out and tell people that this is a vision of what we think is gonna happen. Well, then that's what they expect to happen. So you have to be very careful on how you present what you're thinking, especially when we're not entirely sure what we're doing yet. So,
that's the whole point. And the whole point is that we don't know what we're doing, right? We need some community input from some of that. We need the city's input. They have a vision. I don't ever want to get crossways with our partners. And so I want all of them involved. And I do think we can come out with a vision for how that looks going down the road, or we'll at least get some information that will guide us in that direction. So
my
that's
suggestion
my
would be we
desire.
get our shipping terminal done so that it's usable, and then we can figure out where we're going from there, because right now we don't know. I mean, so it's, in my mind, it's hard to tell someone where we're going when we don't know where we're going. I mean, we kind of have an idea where we might want to go, and when you put ideas out there.
Well, and I think part of the conversation is just that, if you sit down with Matt and his crew, and like I did, and look at the presentation that they sent over, the vision for that waterfront is just gorgeous. I mean, and the amount of work that we can put in that place is phenomenal. Trying to get that message and that visual out to as many people as we can so that they can see what is possible, I think is an important step. So that everybody knows that this is the possibility and this is the impact it's going to have. And it's going to have an impact on you.
As long as it's clearly understood as a possibility, and it's not where we're going, because I've seen it time and time again on this waterfront in my lifetime. They say something, this is what we might do, then that's what we're gonna do. It's in the papers, it's written all down, and then when that doesn't happen, there's a big backlash from the community that, oh, this was gonna happen, you told us that. Well, that wasn't how it was presented.
Well, and Rob brought up a good concern too, is everybody comes to the table with an idea that they think automatically we're going to fund it, and we can't. We can't afford it. So all of that reality and those expectations need to be established, right? The budget that we have and our working parameters need to be set out. But we will have gone out to the community, we will have made the effort, we will have put on a one-day effort, we will have heard the input from various communities, all at the same table, all of them with their ability to weigh in on what they think their direction is. Right now, it's kind of unilateral. We're doing a lot of things internally. I don't mean that literally unilaterally, because we are reaching out. But I think we need to do it on a public basis. So that's my request. And again, I'm not looking for an answer today. I really just wanted to start the dialogue on that. And so that's where I'm starting it for my fellow commissioners.
I
Thank you.
just wanna make sure we don't burden staff with more stuff, because the plates are pretty full right now.
Well, staff can put together kind of an outline of what we just heard here and bring it back to you at a future meeting and start setting dates, et cetera. But we can start throwing some ideas and see what sticks. Brian wants to say something.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Brian Gowan, Director of Environmental Planning Services and Waterfront Project Manager. Yeah, so I think this is something that has kind of been on our to-do list for a while and a variety of different ideas. I mean, so I think this is something just like Rob said, he basically said what I was about to say, is that we could put together some ideas on how this could go. I think an open house style where we solicit input, tell the story of what we've been working on, because a lot of people just don't know. I mean, they see things, they're curious about whether we're keeping the pump track or the portal's going away or not. So there's lots of really good things I think that could come from this. And I actually would say, Commissioner Briscoe, to your concern about staff, is like, I sometimes wish we could get the story out a little bit more just because we are head down working on things. So this could be a good opportunity with enough planning where it's not a reactionary thing, where we can look for later in, after the holidays or something, where we could plan this forward, have the right amount of information, get the word out to enough people. And we have done these in the past, and oftentimes they really have really good feedback, and we'll get like a whiteboard with ideas that people can put things, and we can get a QR code that people can send in comments. So there's feeling like there's an engagement, but we just need to be clear that we're not changing things, we're not making decisions, we're just soliciting input or answering questions. That's a really helpful thing for staff to be able to do. So I think if we map out those options and for a commission discussion at a future meeting, and we can get some direction on it.
Can we just get a headline that says the pump track is not going anywhere? That.
And to your point, most of the conversations I have, and especially with other elected officials, it's constantly a refreshing of where are you, what is this for? Or they'll hear something from the outside. It's getting everybody on the same page, right? And it's getting, here's why we bought the crane from Modesto. Right, that's what it's for. This is why we're putting in a rail spur. And here's Murray's input into that. Here's what the shipping terminal has got for a long-range future, and here's what it would look like when it's fully built out. Here's the sub-area plan for the GP site.
And I could even see a series of these, honestly, where we actually, because we do have very distinct areas. We have the Waterfront District is the marine trades area. We do have some changes coming there. I think that warrants some discussion with the ASB and the heavier uses there. A lot of other people only care about the downtown waterfront, which is what people think of as the waterfront, but it's much broader than that. Then we have the shipping terminal. Also, the city's doing the Salish Landing Park. So I think there's lots of different areas. We could either do a series of them where we have a smaller focused areas and people who care about the marine trades will show up to that one and not to the downtown, and vice versa, or we do a broader one like you're suggesting. I think that would be a lot harder to manage, honestly, to do a big one where you cover everything. So if you take smaller bites at the apple but just be engaged with the public, I think that would be totally doable from my perspective. But it will take some work to get people on the same page on what we'd like to do. But I think this is something that could have some potential.
And quite frankly, there's a lot of people in those environments that just don't have the time to engage at the level that they need to engage, and this is a format for them to do that.
Yeah.
So all of the information is shared at one point. They have the ability to ask questions all in the same arena. They get to hear other questions that are being asked. It is also a way to correct misinformation, which I think needs to be done on a massive scale, because there is a tremendous amount of misinformation that's being propagated. And you can't just do that one-on-one. There's just not enough time for us to be able to work efficiently. And quite frankly, it's hurting the port, in my belief, if the longer we let that go on. So I'm done with that, and we can bring it up at a later time, but thank you for your input. And I would say maybe not this agenda, but maybe the next one down, is to figure out what date works and what the format looks like, and see if we can't move on with that.
You really think you can get everybody on the same page?
No, but I do think we can get, we can get the reasonable people the information they need to help us communicate what we're doing and where we're going. That's what I believe.
And I think we've got.
We're never gonna reach the
handful of
irrational
that
people.
have created a situation because they got nothing better to do, and we're reacting to it, and it's like, nobody shows up here to say anything.
Well,
If they
I
got
don't really,
questions, why don't they come and ask?
I think
We've
it's
got a website that's
important.
full of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're not transparent and putting everything out there is available. They can pick up a phone and call. I mean, it's,
They don't.
well,
It's not in their interest.
well then,
It's in their interest to snipe from the outside, is to throw machine gun fire.
well, I get that.
And I'll give you,
If you wanna get down and play in the mud with the guys that are playing in the mud, we can do that, I guess, but I don't think I don't think it's gonna get us anywhere.
Well, I do think we have a history of providing public forum opportunities, open houses for different aspects of our redevelopment projects. And I think there's strong interest in hearing what's coming up for the shipping terminal, and I think we have a lot to share. We've got some really interesting grants, some modernization programs, and opportunities for the future. I think we have the same for the waterfront downtown district, and I think there's probably another one for the ASB. They're not all the same people who are going to attend each, and I think it's good to just provide as many chances for people to learn and share their interests as possible. And I don't expect people to bring those concerns to a meeting like this. I think people are welcome to, but we have to also kind of cultivate a forum where people are being asked for specific information on specific topics. And these are general meetings. And so I do think there is value in those opportunities for people to be informed as possible and to share their comments.
okay. Are you done?
Yeah. I said what I had to say.
So now I'm gonna, are you done?
On this topic,
Okay. Did you have something else?
Tiffany does.
Because I had one more thing, and I'll wait for you to be done, though. I'll let the mood settle.
Tiffany D. Simone, Director of Maritime. Well, on that note, and of a bit smaller scale, Commissioner Bell scooped me a bit. So I was coming up to talk about the Bellingham Shipping Terminal operations team, but not just the operations team, business development, environmental, engineering, had all been planning on shipping terminal tours. We heard what people were saying over the last few months and year and take it to heart, and it cuts deep. So people want to see what we're doing. And so we've been working on a plan to get people down there and see it. Now, we were planning on doing that a little bit later into the heavy lift area project. There's a lot of activity down there right now. It's quite impressive to look at. So I called Dan at the Working Waterfront Coalition and said, hey, we want to do tours. Does the Working Waterfront Coalition want to participate? And he's like, yeah, but could you do it at Day on the Bay on September 28th? And so I realize that's a little bit short notice, But we are working internally to put that together, partnering with Dan and the Working Waterfront Coalition, along with a bunch of other stakeholders. So ILWU has agreed to be present. The Northline Seafoods, the Hannah, who's at the shipping terminal. There are various port tenants who are active in the Day on the Bay, which is a self-guided tour to multiple stops on the waterfront. And so we are going to participate September 28th from 12 to 2. We will open up the shipping terminal. Folks can come down, take a look, see in the warehouses. We're going to have some equipment there. We're going to talk about potential cargo. We may have some equipment stationed out where people can ask questions. Our business development team will be there. Our environmental team will be there to answer questions about green marine and what we do for stormwater. Our operational team will be down there to talk about our best management practices and how we operate. Who am I missing? Engineering for projects? We'll be there. Yep. And so was no prompting from you on this one, but we are looking forward to that opportunity and appreciate the partnership. That event is actually also run by Sustainable Connections. They will be on site as well. And so we'll do the tour September 28th, a little bit ahead of schedule of what we had intended, but then we'll offer another one on Friday, October 4th for folks who can't make the more short notice. And so all that information will be on our social media and on our website. And I know the Working Waterfront will share the outreach as well. So any questions, thoughts, concerns? Dan, do you have anything to add?
No, just this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate, September 28th from noon to 2.
Yep.
And October 4th from 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And I don't think that's preemptive. I think we're all responding to the same thing. So thank you for that. All right, now I'm going to actually pull the pin on the grenade. One of the things that,
You just have a way with words.
yes, I'm a poet. So the discussion, as we have been talking around this, has also led to something you brought up, which is the 5-commissioner on the port. There is a tremendous movement in the city to, and with the, specifically with the South Hill group, to go to the ballot with a 5-commissioner petition. With that, my fear is that it will become a tear down the port PR campaign in order to get signatures on a petition. And the tear down the port campaign will do more damage to this body and to the work that we have here in this commission, because their objective is to completely change the complexion of this commission. And their attempts will be, as you have seen, ugly and not necessarily representative of the truth. My desire is to have that discussion in this chamber and not out in public with a bunch of people with AK-47s shooting bullets at the port. So it's my desire to have this commission debate the pros and the cons of a 5-commissioner port commission, and have that discussion in an open forum, to have people come here and express their opinions in this environment, face-to-face with us, not to do it through an email campaign with 3,000 people on a mailing list. And I know I'm opening up Pandora's box.
Nah, it's already open. You're not opening up anything.
But I'd like to have that discussion here in front of us, with us able to respond about what's good and what's bad about both structures. Because then it's in front of the body. Then at the end of the day, we as a commission have the ability to put it on the ballot if we choose. But I don't want to go through a public campaign where it's them against the port. I don't want to go through yard signs. I don't want to go through the battle. I think it's harmful overall to the port. I think the port will suffer if they get.
Stuff for the people, well.
Exactly right. And I think that if we go through that campaign, they get enough signatures to put a 5-commissioner thing on the ballot, it will be an all-out war against this commission, and we have felt it already.
Well, why don't we just start this evening with some short views on personal views on it? I don't mind starting out.
No, I came to the table today with just some things that have been weighing on my mind, and I really do want to discuss them. So my thought was, let's take some time to think about how we present this. And I want you to think it through and talk it through, and I didn't even air this with Rob, so this is brand new.
He did not.
I know, I did not, and I apologize, but
Well, we need to make sure we're in legal parameters. You know, if something's on the ballot, you can't sit up here and advocate for it or advocate against it. It's not on the ballot right now, so I think we're fair.
We talked about right now.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
And I think we need to host that forum here in this chamber.
Yeah, like right now.
Well, I think we need to maybe put a pin in this and let me work with legal about what we can and what we can't do, and we'll put it on a future agenda to have that discussion.
That's exactly what I
But
wanted.
I want to.
If we're giving each personal view, we're not voting on anything. If I give my view on it, and he gives his view on it, he gives his view on it, we're not taking a vote on anything.
And I think you can answer questions for people participating in the audience. I think you can engage that way because it's not on the ballot. I just want to cross the i's and dot the t's, or cross the t's and dot the i's with legal before we do that. And also, I don't think it's going to do you much good without it being on the agenda to have that conversation today. I think you want it on an agenda, and you want to have some interaction with the public on it.
I knew I loved you. That's exactly right. And I also think we put it on the agenda, then we invite the conversation to come to us. And that's exactly what I want. So I want to put it on the agenda for maybe the December meeting.
We're going to call it the Great Debate, or
It's
what?
That's
what it's going to be.
There's enough time frame in a December meeting that we can get the word out. If you want to come speak on this, if this is something that you truly believe, come talk to us. We have then the ability to do what what legal tells us we can and can't do. They know that we have that power, and we will listen to both sides of those arguments, and then we can make a decision, or we can leave it up to the signature gatherers. But it'll be post-November, it'll be post this election, so nothing can happen until the next election in any event. But I think the debate needs to be in this venue. That's my grenade. You feel free to go off on whatever.
I'm just, that's just like, it's the same thing I've always said all along, and I was asked this question when I first ran to be a commissioner. Would you want a 5-commission board, or do you want a 3? And I'll tell them the same thing I said then. You go to 5 commissioners, you have no transparency with your commission, none. Because 3 commissioners can go off somewhere and have coffee and decide what's gonna happen.
Not 3, 2.
3, 2, it doesn't matter. You're still going off, so, okay, 2 can go off, all right? They make a decision, then one of those goes off, makes a decision with another 2. There's no transparency. They don't have to meet in front of the public. They don't have to talk about what they're talking about in front of the public. There's no transparency. This is a nonpartisan office, and when you make it 5 people, you have just gone away from your nonpartisan office and transparency for the people. It becomes totally partisan and non-transparent. That's exactly what happens. And if the people want, that's fine. I don't think we should be having a discussion to see if we're going to put it on a ballot or something. I think we should leave that up to the people to gather the signatures if they want to do that. And whatever the vote is, that's the vote. I don't think it's up to us to debate it. That's my opinion.
Well, we do have an opportunity. It is within the authority of the commission to request for that to go on the ballot. So that is one of the 2 mechanisms for it to be voted on by the public. It was last voted on in 2014 or something.
2014, I think it was 2 years
And it
ago.
was, narrowly defeated. I think I don't buy the argument that it eliminates transparency, because we have county, city governments that operate in greater than 3-person commissions, along with ports around the state who also do the same. And I don't think we have wholesale lack of transparency in those other organizations. It comes down to votes. It's, 2 people are not a majority, and so you still have to have a majority of a vote. And I think people are still bound by their ethics to do the job that they were sent to do. So I think there are a variety of pros and cons, but I don't think there's a blanket, to me, statement that transparency would be eliminated. But
Humbly
we're
disagree.
up here to have different opinions for a reason.
Humbly disagree.
And I can't tell you over the last couple of weeks how many times I've been wrestling with this, and I'm a verbal thinker, as all of you know by now, that I would have loved to have had a conversation with one of you guys, because you're in the equal station, right? And discussed a couple of things, just to talk it through, right? We don't have that opportunity unless we're in front of a microphone in front of the public. So there's that aspect of it that I would like to explore. But more importantly, I want the debate stage to be here, and I want it to be civil. I want it to be rational. I know that if it gets outside of this, it'll become a political campaign. There is a stated objective to turn this into a partisan office, which I reject. We cannot let the port become a partisan place. It is a nonpartisan office for a reason, and I think all those discussions need to be had. But if we could at least put that on the agenda for December, then we can talk it through. And I apologize, Rod, for not doing it. It's been in the back of my head, and my gut told me I needed to talk about it tonight. I have absolutely no other hand grenades to throw. Do you have anything else? Do you?
Aside from maybe wanting to hear less use of kind of, I don't know, the overuse of terms related to weapons is kind of bothersome to me, given how much violence we see in this country. And so I would just ask my fellow commissioners to reduce the use of terms that relate directly to weaponry, because we see this happen too often in schools, public places, and it's just something that I find bothersome.
I don't recall relating to weaponry. I didn't say anything
I
about it.
threw grenades.
But I didn't say anything about it. Did I?
He's talking to me.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I want to make that clear because I don't want to be included in that.
for me, the use of those terms are just something that I don't find very productive. But
And that's because nobody's got a sense of humor anymore.
well, it's hard to have a sense of humor when we see
People are getting
school
shot at.
shootings.
Yeah. Note taken. Meeting adjourned.